Coming up on this week's episode of SEO Lunch, we talk about Twitter's recently announced IPO, how it will affect your business, why you should get back on the Twitter bandwagon, and how to integrate Twitter into WordPress. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of SEO Lunch. I'm your host, Dan. But on Twitter, I'm known as @DanZicki, which we'll have right below. Why did I emphasize my Twitter username on this episode? Well, it's because in this episode of SEO Lunch, the show where we talk about the weekly dose of inbound marketing, SEO, social media efforts for your marketing and small business needs, we're talking all about Twitter. And why are we talking about Twitter, you might be asking? Twitter's been around forever, right? The reason we're talking about Twitter is because recently Twitter announced they're going to have an IPO. So when is that going to happen? That date is not exactly set yet. We can assume it's going to happen in the next couple months. News reports, even updated daily, are suggesting that before Thanksgiving this year we'll be seeing a Twitter IPO happening. So what's going to happen is, much like Facebook, there's going to be a much bigger emphasis on business and marketing needs from that perspective, because they got to please their investors at that point, right? So what we're going to talk about today are a couple tools you can use in your tool belt with regards to just, sort of online tools as well as WordPress tools to sort of enhance your marketing with Twitter as this, develops and as this IPO happens, and get the kind of head start on it, right? The first thing I want to talk about is a tool that I used in the past a little bit, and it's called FollowerWonk. It's followerwonk.com. You can see it on the screen over here. And what FollowerWonk basically does for you is it allows you to search for bios that have certain things in them. So right here, you'll see I have a search for WordPress, as well as the location of Providence, right? You can also search by name if I'm looking for somebody specific. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to build a sort of a web of folks that I can start following. Hopefully they'll follow me back, or hopefully I can start reaching out to them specifically for certain needs, right? And it doesn't have to be this specific. We can go to fewer options. Do that. Okay. Just WordPress. My bad. And here's all these options here. And you can just go through and start following these folks as you see fit. It's great. Or just contacting them right from Twitter, which is awesome. All right. But that's sort of where that ends for sort of that sort of thing. Now we're going to go into the WordPress side. And I want to basically call your attention to a couple plugins out there. So we're going to go over to the screen here again. There is a plugin called Twitter Tools, which we actually talked about months and months and months ago on Press This. And Twitter Tool is basically sort of an integration of WordPress and Twitter, as it says right here. Basically, you can tweet posts and things like that, and things like that. You can also manage your tweets right inside WordPress. So if you want to have that one-stop shop for all of this stuff, all this goodness, it's right there. Now, it is something to note that there's another free plugin you have to download. It's actually a new one on me, because when we talked about Twitter Tools last time, it wasn't the case. This is called Social. It actually comes from the folks who bring you MailChimp, which is pretty cool, which allows you to just integrate Twitter and Facebook. So you have to download Social and log in with your Twitter or Facebook account there to enable Twitter Tools at this point. But again, it's very much a similar sort of plugin where it allows you to sort of integrate and discuss Twitter stuff like that right from your back end, which is really, really cool. So basically, I can go right here, and I think I just downloaded it here, so I haven't tweeted anything yet. I don't think it's going to populate anything. Yeah, no posts have been found at this point in time for tweets, because I just put this on here. But this is where you'd be able to sort of take a look at some of your tweets and things like that. Manage your accounts. Again, it logs right into your account. You can create a default account right on the device and go to town that way, which is really, really neat. The next thing I want to talk about is sort of how to go about Twitter. So I've talked this whole time about marketing with Twitter on WordPress, and that assumes you already have a Twitter account or that you're kind of comfortable with Twitter prior to coming in. If you're uncomfortable with Twitter, one thing I do stress personally is to maybe consider creating multiple Twitter accounts. On most apps, I know with the Twitter apps on Androids and iOS, you can actually manage and flip between accounts. the reason why this is good is Twitter's a really great personal platform. It really is. So, if I'm going to post to you from the studio, right, I'm going to post as @DanZicki. That's me, right? That's who you contact immediately, right? And that'll be good for like lead generation, for talking to folks. But there's also some of you out there who are going to have a business and you're going to want feedback. And while a personal Twitter isn't necessarily a bad thing, you also want people to be able to reach out to you easily and quickly. For example, I'm not going to name the company because it's a little bit embarrassing to the company, but I was at lunch the other day with a friend, and my friend found basically a tapeworm in his food, and I was able to immediately go to Twitter and write and then without any thought, search the name of the company that provided the food and contact them directly on Twitter and say, "What's up? What's the deal?" And they were able to contact us immediately back and provide us with coupons or whatever help possible, support lines and things like that, which was really cool on them. Again, I don't want to mention the company's name, but that was sort of an example of, I don't know the CEO of that company or anything like that. So if you're Joe's Pizza Place, right, and your name's John Doe or something, right, you would have your @John Doe account, which would be for like talking to folks and who are also pizza enthusiasts or pizza sauce enthusiasts, excuse me. But then you could also have your @Joe's Pizza Twitter account for those of you who just want to post right to them and get in contact. And it gives you sort of a leg up on the competition because people have an easy way to reach you, both from a B2B perspective, which would be more the personal perspective, and the B2C perspective, which is I had a pizza and it didn't taste very good, or the pizza tasted great and I wanted to let you know, and they can immediately find me on Twitter because it isn't a stretch or a struggle to find me on Twitter. So that's what I recommend for that and for Twitter tools. And, I recommend that you folks go to our blog, slocumstudio.com/blog. You can subscribe, slocumstudio.com/subscribe. Of course, we're looking to get up to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. A very lofty goal, I know, but we're going to get there. I know it. So just click that big old red subscribe button if you liked what you saw. If you want me to go a little bit more in detail, if you have other maybe Twitter tools you want to discuss or want a specific Twitter solution, another great place to go is our recently announced and recently released forums section. So if you go to our website, I'm sure we'll post a link down below, but also slocumstudio.com/forums. You can go right on there. You can post your questions, and hopefully our community will be able to reach out to you, or ourselves will be able to reach out to you there. We find it to be a little bit more effective than typical YouTube comments, or even blog post comments for that matter. So thank you folks for listening so much, and until next time, I'm @DanZicki. Follow me.